courses, but at a minimum, make sure that you're familiar with the type of tests that you're taking. And finally, take relevant and challenging courses, right? You all at UCF and in the state of Florida, we all need 120 credit hours to earn our bachelor's degree. There's a certain number that we have to take, right, for our major, and all of us have to take. And then there's sort of this other category, right, or we just have to accumulate credits. And I'm not telling you to not take things that are interesting outside of your discipline. What I'm saying is do that on balance with the things that are important and would show on your transcript that you're really serious about graduate school in a specific field. So, do that on balance when you get there. All right, so UCF. Again, why UCF? We're best value university. We're an innovative school. We're one of the largest schools in the country. And we have a lot, our faculty generate over $200 million of research funding. That was just last year. The reason that's important is that money comes back to graduate students in the form of fellowships and assistantships, right? So faculty members are getting these grants and these awards, and then they're saying, okay, I got $1 million from the National Science Foundation to work on this project, but there's no way I'm going to be able to do that by myself. I need 5 graduate students in my lab to do that. And I'm going to take some of that money that I got and I'm going to use it to support graduate students through their education who are going to help me with this research project. So the research, generation of funding is vitally important to the lifeline of graduate education. Some of the links we provided in the chat, right? So the graduate catalog is sort of the home of all of our graduate programs. You can click within each college and click on each program. And here you're going to find sort of everything you want to know about the program itself. So you'll find a program contact, the faculty member or staff member within the program who's sort of the general advisor. You'll find the curriculum. Is this a 30 credit hour program or is this a 120 credit hour program? Do I have an option, thesis or non-thesis? Are there elective courses or is this all, everybody takes the same 10 courses? The graduate catalog is sort of the place to learn about that. Application requirements and deadlines. So this is our page that we've created with a list of all of our programs in one place that shows you the deadlines and each program's application requirements. So you'll see we'll try to be very intentional. The GRE is not required for admissions to this program. 3 letters of recommendation are, these are our deadlines for domestic and international students. So we tried to kind of compile this all in one place that makes it easy for you to find. At UCF, we use an online application. So no matter which program you're applying to, you'll be completing this same online application. You'll find that the application we think is relatively easy to navigate. The biggest takeaway is before you sit down to do this application, I want you to know how many letters of recommendation your program requires. They do not have to be done when you're completing this application, but you do need to know who you're going to recommend because our recommendation system is under the references area is an electronic recommendation system. So if your program requires 3 letters, you're going to need to tell us who those 3 people are before you can submit this application. So again, they don't have to have sent their letters back to us. It does not have to be complete for you to submit the application, but you do need to tell us who they are, and depending on the number will depend on how many are required by your program. Once you have applied, you'll have access to your applicant status portal. It'll tell you who the admissions coordinator is, the staff member in our office who can help you collect all these materials. You'll find a checklist that's just for you that'll show you specifically what's required, show you the status of those letters of recommendation, show you, your transcripts and whether we've received them or not. And so you'll have access to this. There's FAQs, there's next steps. This is where you'll sort of track the status of your application. And when you receive an admission decision, you'll log back into this status portal to see the results of your application. So this is an important sort of hub as you're applying or after you've completed your application. with that said, that's the end of my formal presentation. I'm happy to answer questions. I see there are a bunch in the chat, so we'll definitely get to those. If you have questions, and I expect that you will, definitely feel free to email me. Come see our table at the in-person fair on Thursday. Like I said, several of our admission specialists will be there. Happy to answer some more questions for you at that time. But with that said, my last takeaway is really, thinking about graduate school and applying to graduate school. It's not something you can really do overnight, not something you can do over the weekend. But hopefully, as you're thinking through some of the topics that we've discussed, it will help you sort of narrow down the field of the places that you're interested in applying to, and guide you on this journey. So with that said, I'm going to be quiet now and listen to your questions, and hopefully we'll have some answers for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Sorry, I just wanted to go ahead and ask the questions from the chat, since they have been waiting very patiently since the beginning of the session. So the first question comes from Miroslav. He asked, do business programs usually require a thesis?
Generally not. Generally, most business programs are going to be just coursework programs. Now, UCF does offer a business administration PhD, and those programs, our doctoral program, would have a strong research component that would require a dissertation. But generally, the master's programs are going to be coursework programs, right? So they're going to, there's 10 courses. All students take the same 10 courses, and you complete the program that way.
Perfect, thank you. So the next question is, can I apply while I am still undergraduate student and don't have my transcript yet?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're going to apply the same way that you applied when you were a high school student for college, right? So you do not have to have formally completed your degree. We will ask for your in-progress transcripts. So you'll send us a transcript that shows all the courses you took up to that point, and the program will make a decision based on that. Generally, if you're still in the process of completing your degree and you're offered admission, your admission will be conditional, right, on the condition that you finish your degree program and earn your degree prior to your start date in your master's program. But you'll be applying in the fall, spring for that year's next fall. So right now, our application, students are applying for spring 24. Some of our programs are still accepting summer and fall 2024. So you will apply using your in-progress transcripts.
So the next question is from Ellen. Is there any possibility to get a GRE/GMAT waiver on business programs?
So at UCF, none of our programs require the GRE or the GMAT, so you don't have to worry about that. At other schools, you would need to ask them specifically about their policies about that. But the PhD in business administration, I think, is the only program that still requires an admissions test in the College of Business. All of the other master's programs no longer require an admissions test.
Thank you. Next question is from Isadora. How much earlier before applying to grad school do you recommend to take the GRE?
Yeah, so I think the summer or fall of the year before you're applying is a great time to begin. You want to give yourself some prep time, and then you want to understand that it's going to take us as an institution some time to receive your scores from the time you complete the exam. So even though you're going to, with the GRE, and I know students, you're going to see sort of an unofficial score when you finish the exam, but it still takes us about 4 to 6 weeks for us to get the official score from ETS of your test. So, you want to leave yourself a wide room there for us to receive your test. And if you want to retake it, you want to give yourself time to do that as well. So, I think if you're applying, let's say hypothetically fall 2025, then summer 2024 is generally when I would begin the process of registering, getting an exam date, beginning to prep. That way, you've got some time within the September, October, November window to take the exam, decide if you want to take it again, and give yourself enough time to get that stuff into us for funding decisions.
The next question is from Hunter. What was the personal statement breakdown again, or the 5-paragraph essay?
Yeah, absolutely. So your education, your research, and your professional career objectives.
The next question is, how early before the application cycle should you begin to work on the application?
Yeah, so for us, the terms generally open the year for a year forward. Like I said, right now we're accepting applications for all 2024 terms. Spring 2025 won't be available on our application probably until May or June of this year. Um, and then summer and fall probably about a year ahead of time, I guess, is the best way to say it, right? So most of our programs do rolling admissions, but some do more sort of committee-based reviews. But like I said, we will open up the application generally about a year out, and so we invite you to begin your application at that time.
Perfect. The next question is from Andy. If the standardized test is optional, would it be beneficial to take it? Would it give us an advantage in our application if we get a good score?
So at UCF, it will not. And the reason it won't is because we won't show the program your score. The reason we do that is because if they don't want to, if it's not required, then we don't want the programs to be influenced by some students who decided to take it or could afford to take it and some students who didn't, right? So even for UCF purposes, if your program says they don't require it, if you submit a score to us, we're not going to show it to them. So I can't speak to other schools that may help, but at UCF, it wouldn't provide you any benefit in the admissions process.
Another question from Miroslav. If I am considering both masters in business and law, would you recommend to only take the GRE exam or both GMAT and LSAT instead?
It's a personal decision. If you're applying to law school, you will need an LSAT, I would think. I don't work for law schools, but I think most of them are still requiring it. It's possible that your program that you're applying to, that's the non-law school program, would accept an LSAT in place of a GRE or GMAT, but you'd want to ask them specifically about that. So I hope that made sense. But yeah, I think you'd at least, if you're definitely applying to law school, I'm going to say with 98% confidence, you're going to have an LSAT score. Your graduate program that requires the GRE, the hypothetical program we're talking about, may be willing to accept the LSAT in place of the GRE if that helps. Doesn't help. I hope I answered that question.
The next question is from Miracle. Do you think it is smart to apply to master's programs and doctoral programs at the same time?
So at UCF, we allow that. Totally up to you. You can apply to as many programs as you'd like. The only thing is you do need an application and an application fee for each program. So you want to keep that in mind. At UCF, our application fee is $31 for each application that you're applying, submitting. There's no negative to it as far as UCF is concerned. If you're applying to both and you're admitted to both, you can decide which one that you want to pursue. I don't think it necessarily hurts you in any way. So it's really up to you, and as many programs as you'd like to be considered for, we would encourage you to apply to.
Also, I want to be very mindful of your time, Mr. Goldman. We do have only 2 minutes left, so unfortunately, everybody, we might not be able to get to all the questions, because like I said, I want to be mindful of your time. So with that, we could probably answer about 2 more questions, and then we do have a survey at the end for you guys to fill out, kind of like a participation survey if you guys would like to. But the next question is, how do you apply or receive fellowships and assistantships?
So for fellowships, you need to have your application for the university submitted by January 15th for that year's fall. Assistantships, we encourage you to contact your program coordinators directly. You'll find that contact information in the graduate catalog to ask them specifically about what the funding levels are like, and is there a process within their department for applying for assistantships.
Absolutely. And then the next question, again about assistantships and fellowships, is it possible to do both or have more than one fellowship?
So generally, you can't have more than one fellowship. If you're awarded two, you would pick the higher one, whichever one is worth the most, and you'd select that. In some cases, programs do have students who are on fellowships that also have assistantships, and there can be combinations like that. But again, it's really time to or a conversation to have with your program directly because it's very, very specialized in each program.
Absolutely. And our last question is from Isadora. Where can I find more information on fellowships at UCF?
Yeah, so the fellowships at UCF, we have a graduate funding page on our website. I'm going to put it in the chat so that way you can find out all of those resources. There's a link in there for fellowships that will show you a list of what all the different ones are. Most of the higher level ones from the university level only require that you complete your application by January 15th. There are a few specialized ones that have a supplemental application, but from that website, that funding website, you can click on graduate fellowships and it'll show you a full list of what the fellowships are. I'll put both of the links in there.
All right, so that is all the time that we have today. Mr. Goldman shared his contact information, so I'm sure he'd be more than happy if you have any questions afterwards, or come visit us at the graduate fair, on Thursday, because UCF Graduate Studies will be there at their table. But with that, we have a link posted in the chat for the survey for today's event. And then also, let me share my screen really quick. I also have a
And Carmel, while you're doing that, I do have a few more minutes. So
okay.
if we want to bang out a few more questions, I'm happy to try to answer them.
Absolutely. So here, let me just present this really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Slideshow. So this is our QR code and link. And as Mr. Coleman said, kindly thank you so much for staying around a little bit more to answer more questions. Let me see. Where can I find more? So one is there a business formal dress code? Oh, sorry, this is more for us. No, there's not a business formal dress code for Thursday. You're more than welcome to dress like that. But it will be a lot of walking around. So no, there's no formal dress code or anything like that.
Wear comfortable shoes.
Absolutely. Comfortable shoes. And I believe it's probably going to get a little bit warmer on Thursday as compared to today. So probably not a sweater or anything like that. Next question is, does taking a gap year between undergrad and grad school hurt admissions chances?
I don't think it hurts in any way. It's really a personal decision. People come to graduate school and at all different times of their life. So we have students who are 18 and 19, 20, 21 years old who have, blown through their undergraduate degree and are ready to keep going. And then we have students coming back who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. So I don't think there's a downside to a gap year. It's really up to you what it is you hope to accomplish. A lot of students take more than a year. I can speak personally. It was about 10 years from my undergraduate degree before I began a graduate program. So that's not unusual. And I don't think it would really hurt you in any way.
Absolutely. So the next question from Jesse is your pastor a good reference for a letter of recommendation?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't want to say it would be bad, but I would say that I would aim for academic references first, if that makes sense. Really, people who can talk about your academic potential. I don't think that one wouldn't lean as far into personal, but we're getting a little close, right? So, again, it's context though, right? Like, are you applying for a counseling program where like your work as a Sunday school teacher was something that you wanted highlighted? In that context, that would be more appropriate, right? So I think it depends a little bit, but primarily academic references are really the ones that are the most useful to your program and give them the most insight into you.
The next question is, does the MBA require a GMAT?
At UCF, it does not. No.
And then another question from Robin. There are many things to consider when picking a grad school, but what are some of the best questions to ask to make the most of the conversation with a college representative?
Yeah, I mean, I think you want to know. So I think this is a good question. Context is important, right? So recognize, and I tell this to a lot of prospective students that I meet, when I meet you there, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, right? So I know a little bit about all of our programs, but I might not know a lot about any single one. So I think the most important thing to do at these when you're having these college representatives and you're meeting people on Thursday is really collect as much information as you can. Learn about what types of programs they offer. Do they offer a program in your field that you're interested in? What are the best ways to learn more and to connect with faculty members? Can this person help you make that connection? Because that's really who you want to get to, right? So we as college representatives are just that. We sort of represent everyone. But my greatest I think one of my greatest skills is really being able to know who to hand you off to get your questions answered. So, obviously that's important. What are the funding opportunities? What are things that are great about the graduate school for all students, right? Are there things that are available to all graduate students at your college or university? I think those are important questions. But yeah, I think really thinking about it as sort of that first information finding, fact finding mission. What programs do you offer? Do you offer a program that I'm interested in? Um, it, it, ask them, tell them what your interest is. I'm an undergraduate major in this. I'm looking for a program in this. Let them be the ones that kind of guide you. I know at UCF, when you meet our admission specialist on Thursday, they're going to have a list of about 200 programs, right? So there's going to be a lot there. Let them help you, right? Let them tell them what your interest is and let them show you on the sheet. Yes, that program is here. Take advantage of that, right? And think about it really in that first introductory phase. Keep in mind that very specific questions may not be able to be answered in that setting, but making the connection and then following up, whether it's providing them with your contact information or getting their cards so that you can continue the conversation, I think is the most important thing.
So the next question from Gavin is, if I apply to a program and am denied, can I take some time to strengthen my application in areas such as experience and service and then reapply later?
At UCF, you can. We don't have any restrictions on the number of times you can apply, so you're welcome to apply again. If that's the case, I would really, really encourage you to have a conversation directly with your program, the program director, to find out what the deficiency was, so that so that you know what it is that you can do to increase. What I'd hate for you to do is for them to say, think, oh, well, if I only had undergraduate research experience or I only had this, when in reality it was your test score that was the problem, or it was your GPA that was coming up a little bit short. So have that direct conversation with them to say, hey, I applied, I noticed I didn't get in. What can I do? What are the things that I can do specifically? And let them give you that advice. That way you're not trying to guess or working on something that may not really have been the area that they wanted to see more improvement from.
Absolutely. Thank you. And this is our last question from Nadia. As an online student, how do you cultivate relationships with professors in order to get those academic references?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question. It, 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 it can be difficult. I think now in the day and age we live in, it's probably a little bit easier maybe than it was before, right? So we have these sort of settings for Zoom or Teams. There are online forums. I think many online faculty members still hold virtual office hours. The same type of principle, right? In the past, with an in-person, if you would have dropped by during in-person office hours, drop by during virtual hours, ask to set up an appointment to talk about your goals and things like that. It may require a little bit more work on the front end, but I think it's still definitely possible. But be intentional, right? I think that's the biggest takeaway. Have some intentionality to it, and work it.
Absolutely. Thank you again so much for answering all these questions. And thank you everybody for joining us today. So that is the end of our session. As mentioned, of course, you can always reach out, message us if you have any questions. Same with Mr. Goldman. And like we've been saying, if you have any more questions, go in person on Thursday, go to the grad prep fair. But yeah, that's it for today. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, no problem.
Thank you guys, and hopefully we'll see you on Thursday.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you guys for coming.
Quick question. Will this presentation be shared?
Well, we'll have to ask Dr. Goldman to see, because it's a presentation that he actually prepared. We can talk to him to see if we can share that with participants.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Will.
Yeah, we will.
Bye-bye. I will just go ahead and remove the rest of the students from the session. Thank you guys for coming. There we go.
All right.
Great job, Carmel.
Thank you.
You did amazing. How do you feel?
Good. Yeah.
Great. It was awesome. I mean, I really learned a lot of information that I didn't know about the programs, especially UCF programs. You might not more because you're a grad student at UCF. But it was great. And honestly, to be honest with you, I